Welcome to LMC, Little Mercury Club.
There was once a woman who lived in a small cottage surrounded by flowers. Every morning, birds sang outside her window, and every evening, golden sunlight filled her little home. The world around her seemed peaceful, yet inside her heart there was a quiet emptiness. Sometimes, she would watch mothers holding their children close, hear their laughter, see their tiny hands wrapped around loving fingers, and wonder what it might feel like to be called mother. She never wished for riches. She never wished for a grand life. All she wanted was someone to love, someone to hold close, someone who could turn the silence in her little home into happiness. And though years passed, that wish inside her heart never disappeared. One day, a mysterious visitor placed a tiny seed into her hands. The seed looked ordinary, small, and simple. Yet somehow, it felt different. The woman planted it carefully into a flower pot, and then she waited. Days passed. The wind came and went. Rain touched the earth. And every morning, the woman looked toward the little pot with hope in her eyes. Then one day, something extraordinary happened. A beautiful flower bloomed. Its petals shimmered softly beneath the sunlight. The woman leaned closer and gently touched the flower. Slowly, the petals began to open. Inside, sleeping peacefully, was the tiniest little girl anyone had ever seen. She was so tiny that she could rest in the palm of a hand. For a moment, the woman could only stare. Then tears filled her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears from a happiness she had waited years to feel. The little house that once felt lonely suddenly felt warm. For the first time in a very long while, it felt like home. The woman named the tiny girl Thumbelina. Thumbelina grew surrounded by love. Her bed was made from soft flower petals, her blanket was woven from delicate leaves, and she floated across water in walnut shells while butterflies danced nearby and birds sang sweet songs for her. Every night before sleep, the woman held Thumbelina carefully in her hands, as though she were the most precious treasure in the world. Their home became filled with laughter, and for a while, life was beautiful. But sometimes, even the happiest lives can change overnight. One quiet night, while Thumbelina slept peacefully among her flower petals, an old frog saw the tiny girl and thought, "She would be the perfect companion for my son." Without asking, without understanding, the old frog carried sleeping Thumbelina away. Far from home. Far from the loving hands that held her close every night. When Thumbelina opened her eyes the next morning, everything felt strange. Her little flower bed was gone. Her warm home was gone. And the woman who loved her was nowhere to be seen. Fear filled her tiny heart. The old frog smiled kindly and said, "Do not worry, little one. Soon, you will become part of our family." But some hearts cannot feel happy when they are far away from the people they love. Days passed. Every evening, Thumbelina would sit quietly looking into the distance. The young frog noticed. One day, he finally asked, "Why do you always look so sad?" Thumbelina smiled softly and answered, "Because somewhere, there is someone who loves me very much." I disappeared without saying goodbye. The young frog became silent. For the first time, he imagined losing his own mother. And suddenly, Thumbelina was no longer a stranger. That night, while everyone slept, the young frog quietly came near her. He looked at Thumbelina for a moment and whispered, "If someone is waiting for you, you should go home." Then gently, he loosened the leaf holding her. As the water slowly carried Thumbelina away, she looked back one last time. The young frog remained beneath the moonlight, watching silently. Because sometimes, kindness means letting go, so another heart can be free. Thumbelina traveled through forests, fields, and unfamiliar lands. Some days brought kindness. Others brought hardship. Still, through every struggle, her heart remained gentle. Then winter arrived. Cold winds swept across the world. Food became scarce. The tiny girl shivered with hunger and exhaustion. Yet even then, she refused to give up, because hope can survive even when strength begins to fade. One day, a field mouse offered her warmth, food, and shelter. Thumbelina was grateful, because kindness means the most when life feels hardest. But safety does not always bring happiness. The mouse wanted Thumbelina to marry a wealthy mole. The mole had comfort, a large home, and protection from hardship. Everything, except joy. The mole cared little for flowers. He never listened to birds and never admired sunlight. Little by little, Thumbelina's heart became heavy, because a life without happiness can become another kind of loneliness. One day, she discovered a swallow bird, weak, injured, and close to death. Others ignored him, but Thumbelina stayed. She cared for him, protected him, and shared warmth with him through the cold, day after day, asking for nothing in return. When spring arrived, the swallow healed. His wings became strong again, and soon, it was time to leave. Thumbelina smiled, even though saying goodbye hurt, because true kindness expects nothing back. Time passed. Then the day finally arrived. Thumbelina was expected to marry the mole. Her heart felt trapped, and her dreams slowly disappeared. Just when hope seemed lost, a familiar bird returned. The swallow. He remembered the tiny girl who had once saved him, and without hesitation, he invited her to come away. Thumbelina climbed onto his back, and together they flew above forests, above rivers, and above mountains. For the first time in many months, Thumbelina felt free. The wind touched her face. The sun warmed her heart. And hope returned. Far away, they reached a magical land filled with flowers. Not ordinary flowers, but flowers large enough to become tiny homes. Among them lived gentle little people who were kind, joyful, and full of life. And there, among the blossoms, lived a prince. The prince saw Thumbelina not as someone small, but as someone brave, someone kind, someone precious, and someone worth loving. For the first time, Thumbelina truly belonged. The tiny girl who once cried alone finally found a place where her gentle heart would never feel lonely again. Her sadness became peace. Her struggles became memories. and the kindness she had given to the world returned to her as love. Because sometimes, the kindest hearts must travel through pain before finding the happiness they always deserved. And even the smallest soul can carry the greatest courage. From that day onward, Thumbelina lived surrounded by love, flowers, sunlight, and happiness. Whenever the wind moved softly through the gardens, it seemed to whisper a gentle reminder that kindness is never wasted, and hope should never be abandoned. The end.